Fear. Everybody has them. They've told me so many. Planes, sharks, darkness, being left on red, aloneness, living a empty life, death. But I don't really fear that. My hometown, my birthplace, the people that raised me. I fear of forgetting my city. A place where one street separates the neighborhood from the hood. Where 50% of the residents is pale and say, things are going good, and the other half live by the mentality of, I wish a brother would. In the suburban city of hoops, Miller Bros been serving scoops, a Superman Sunday waffle cone, that's my roots. Curveball in the streets, riding bikes from police, Gus's Coney Island chili fries with the cheese, that's my city. I appreciate it if you say it with me. Clem Nation, of people that do not need your pity, that's my town, where Butch and the Bathers will throw down, and the king blood runs deep, y'all best respect the crown. That's my home. R.I.P. Destin, you're not alone. We've come a long ways from kids to being grown. I've been gone for what feels like way too long. My G's got freed and I celebrated alone. That's my fam. Where Javon's catching jams, D's hitting threes, and TCB's making plans, that's my soul. Class reunion at the Rec Bowl. Fireworks in the sky of July from the gazebo. That's me. I really wish others would see the Clem through my eyes and how it's molded me. That's my drive. Taught me what it means to be alive. Put respect on my city. That's the reason that I strive. Put the shoes on my feet. The gang's rolling deep. If you asking for a verse, let's be a Bath City beat. Don't ask me to repeat. We only got the heat. Rocking the mic ain't a thing when you born in MC. You will never catch me sleep. To my people from the streets, at a table with a seat, that's everybody eats. I set a plate, fork, and a seat, a whole rack of meat. You won't never catch me sleep till everybody eats. I said I won't never count no sheep. To my homies from the streets, got some J's on their feet, a table and a seat, a whole rack of meat like a whole freaking feast. I said, you won't ever catch me sleep until everybody eats. Mount Clemens class of 2022, make some noise. Like they said, my name is Matthew King. I graduated from Mount Clemens High School in 2015. I just graduated from Central Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in January. And now I'm back home, getting on my career path, but more importantly, I'm back home to give back to a city and the people that have given so much to me. So, being here on this stage, being a part of this celebration, this is a complete come true and a serious honor. So thank y'all, and with that being said, let me get into the speech titled, Hope, a Work in Progress. I wrote that poem this past summer. Traveling across the country, I got extremely homesick in Colorado. So I wrote what home is to me. Another collection of words that holds extreme significance is a sentence I found 4 years ago. Doing homework, I stumbled upon this. High school graduation is the single most effective preventative strategy to adulthood poverty. When I hear that and see succeeding students walk across stage and receive their diplomas, I am moved. Graduating from Mount Clemens in 2015, I didn't know this statistic. And I didn't know my hometown enough to express it in any serious form. Let alone did I understand the tremendous importance of those two things and how they would have effect on my life in the following 7 years. You see, when I graduated, I flaunted a long list of achievements that I thought made me better than the average high school student. Over 1,700 volunteer hours, 15 local scholarships, 5 varsity sports, class president, accepted to Central Michigan University, Michigan Military Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year, speaking awards, emceed my graduation, and my peers even voted me most likely to become a billionaire. Unfortunately, they didn't know that I'd spend 6.5 years at college, where instead I'd end up exactly $1 billion in debt. Sorry. In an old conversation with a friend, I explained, I lived in Mount Clemens for 18 years. I know who I am and what I want. I've done my fair share of community service. I know all the streets, all the people, and everything else that comes a part of being a part of a community. I convinced myself that after graduation, I should leave my city because there was nothing more it could offer me, or nothing more I could offer it. I thought to myself, my work here is done. That egocentric belief fractured within my first month of living on campus at Central. Coming from a high school that was 90% black, I wasn't surprised to see less people of color on campus. What caught me off guard was that I was one of only 2 black people that lived on my entire floor. And out of my entire dorm of over 100 students, there was maybe 8 others that looked like me. The cracks of my know-it-all belief further spread when others compared class sizes to see who graduated with the most hundreds of students. The conversation slowly came to a silence. Eyes shifted to my direction, and I merely whispered, 37? My old belief splintered from top to bottom when I spoke of having so many meal options in our new campus cafeteria, only for my new peers to say, this is nice, but we used to get whatever we wanted from chain restaurants in our high school lunchrooms, which at first made me bring up how that wouldn't fly in my school because we all got free lunch. But then I learned to press my lips because I was told that free lunch for an entire school was only possible if over 80% of students lived under the poverty line. The culmination of all these experiences in this new community where I was the oddball out forced enough pressure from my cracked up belief to shatter into 1,000 pieces. On a beautiful day, I ran across campus with watered up eyes, unlocked my dorm room, turned off the lights, threw my bags to the floor, and curled up into a ball on my bed. I hid from the world as I cried and cried and cried. At the time, I couldn't put words to what was wrong with me. You see, my entire life growing up in Mount Clemens and attending our public schools, I didn't recognize the many adaptations that were made to our everyday lives. Adaptations we were forced to make due to the systematic biases that affect predominantly black and brown communities. And when everyone is going through the same struggle, it becomes extremely difficult to recognize the effects those challenges have on a personality and your identity. Now that I entered a new world that had never faced the issues my friends and I did, I began to grasp the impact those effects had on me. I realized that my old claim of knowing everything about myself and where I'm from was blissfully ignorant. Now that I was awakened to this new reality, it was impossible for me to look back. I could only move forward where there was a mountain of work to be done. I'd begin this work by searching for stories, people, or any medium that could shine a light into the cracks of my foundation. In part, helping explain the community I came from, therefore, pieces of who I am. My first step was listening to the world-famous writers with firsthand experience of similar struggles. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Joey Badass. I tried to listen to Drake, but that's when he was like making the emotional music, and I had already cried in my room for multiple days, so I was trying to move past that. That taught me that although different people from different corners of our country, other communities existed similar to my hometown. I made friends, turned mentors on campus that spoke in the same tongue as me, and opened my eyes to the injustices they were facing as full-time students, some even with full-time jobs. They taught me that, yes, we have emotions too, but some groups of people have less time to weep in order to work for the world that we deserve. I scheduled courses that taught the history and roots of oppression in America to find out how our country got here, and by consequence, my hometown. These taught me of redlining, a practice in the 40s and 50s to segregate communities by race, deeming black homes worth less, denying blacks from purchasing homes in white neighborhoods, and providing white families with home loans, denying blacks that same support. I imagined the Gratiot roads stained red. I was taught of white flight, where white families with the financial power to do so move out of urban areas that have a significant minority population. I fantasized of doves departing my alma mater, flying down Cass and Crocker roads to newly nest at Lance Cruz, Chippewa, even Dakota. I learned of the Black Panther Party, a group organized in the 60s who provided street surveillance on officers in black communities during a time of extreme police brutality based upon race, and how they were the catalyst for free school breakfasts and lunches around the world. I daydreamed a full plate of pasta and chicken for dinner, when in reality, being a broke college student, I slathered peanut butter on the bread for the third night in a row. Nevertheless, in that flawed foundation of mine, friends, artists, and history showed me that my base of which to build was not to be scrapped, but to be intentionally pieced back together, inspecting bit by bit to ensure the future of any storms that may come. And with that realization, I noted there is more work to be done. With better understanding the roots of America, Mount Clemens, and myself, a flame of passion was ignited. I couldn't keep these valuable lessons locked up. I needed to apply them. I chose to volunteer. I headed to Flint during the water crisis, where we supported in the cleanup and restoration of an elementary school. I traveled to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we assisted in putting homes back together after a historical flood. New York City, learning how to best support and advocate for our LGBT plus friends, families, and neighbors. Omaha, Nebraska, providing emergency services such as shelters, clothes, and meals for youth. Asheville, North Carolina, and Homestead, Florida, working to protect natural lands and waters through nature conservation. Sharpsburg, Georgia, farming to provide nutritious meals, combating the effects of cancer on patients. Even El Hotel, Honduras, building latrines with hand-washing stations and teaching healthy hygiene practices. I went to all these places and worked with all these organizations with one intent: to give. However, with every experience, I received something as well. I noticed that the organizations making the largest meaningful changes for the people of their community were ran by people from their communities. They knew the unique challenges that affected their cities and areas because they grew up through it too, which meant they had the best understanding of anyone in the world to solve their community's specific issues. This lesson I received from these monumental community leaders was something I promised to bring home and that I would adopt. And with this, I noticed there is more work to be done. This promise of mine was brought home that summer of 2019. In the midst of a police pursuit, I stood only feet away from a cornered young black high school boy. With nowhere else to run, the boy froze, and a white middle-aged officer roared, "Lay on your effing stomach and put your hands behind your head." Scowling and mouthing off, the boy slowly dropped to one knee, and then the other, following the command. The officer slowly circled around the laid-out boy and quickly dropped to one knee, digging into the boy's back. Wincing in pain, he was swiftly cuffed. Suddenly, I heard tires screeching. I turned to see a squad car jumping the curb only feet from where I stood. Two officers burst from the door. The white middle-aged officer's face turned bright red and animated as he repeatedly thrust his knee into the boy's back, all the while screaming, "Where did you hide the effing shoes? Where the F is your buddy? Don't give me that BS." Sensing another sharp knee on his way, the boy jerked his body and rolled to the side. Reacting to the boy's quick movement, the officer grabbed his gun. My heart sank. Without a thought, my hands openly raised into the air, my voice boomed, "Chill." Everyone froze. The officer, looking to me with a face of regret, holstered his gun and rose to his feet. The boy's tense body relaxed from a state of panic to a sense of calm. The other officers assisted in standing the boy up and placing him in the police car. As the boy entered the car, he looked at me one last time and nodded. Change made by one community member. My promise to enact community change persisted through COVID-19. The whole world suffering together because of the death, the whole world suffering together only for the lives of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd to be lost. As the entire world took to the streets and protests, living with my mother, I feared for her health. I anxiously sat at home questioning how else I could possibly help. Then it hit me, a scholarship. Although I had no medical expertise to offer or political power to enforce, I had a little money saved up, an army of friends and family that truly support what I fight for. I typed out my vision. Imagine a community where everyone invests $50, $500, or $1,000 towards their young adults. Every single kid would be in a better place to become a successful member of their communities. Once they're financially established, they would then be able to invest in the next group of young adults and so on. This would lead to a healthier, more successful community. After the vision, I created applications for students, put $500 of my own aside, created a Cash App, Venmo, GoFundMe, and posted all the information across my social media platforms. 8 months, 57 plus donors, and $3,500 later, I gave out 7 scholarships worth $500 each to 7 first-generation college students from my hometown, the first ever recipients of the Everybody Eats Scholarship, and the most empowering moment of my life. This year, people across Michigan, Illinois, New York, in your hands, you hold the hope of a new generation of leaders, trailblazers, discoverers, problem solvers, and so much more. This hope does not rest on the great work you have already done, but the resounding work you will do. Carving career paths that our ancestors could only imagine. Building bridges to ensure opportunity and optimism to flourish. Building roads and carving careers that laying the foundation for roads and paths that will give way to new hope, new leaders, and a new generation of great students. My friends of all races, of gender and non-gender, religious or not, there is more work to be done. As my favorite author, Casey Gerald, says, hard work, frightening work, uncertain work, unending work, work that may test us, work that may defeat us, work that we may not even get the credit for, but work on which the whole world depends. My fellow graduates, with the love of your families, with the support of your friends, with the bond of your city, and with a worldwide network of people who believe in you, this work, no matter how tough, cannot help but be done. This work, us kids from the Clem know better than anybody else. Mount Clemens, class of 2022, congratulations on this phenomenal accomplishment, and I cannot wait to see the work you do. Thank y'all. Appreciate you, man. They crazy. Do your thing.